Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. We got a great show. I'm very excited for this guest. I'm a big fan of this guest. My family is a big fan of this guest, and I'm probably gonna retell the story when the interview starts. But when I told my mom Ethan Suplee is going to be on here, uh, she loves Ethan from Mr. Woodcock, and my dad loves Ethan from Remember the Titans. So for one whole day, my family loved me. They were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you got Ethan Suplee," and like they were like bragging to everyone. They're like, "My son's going to interview Ethan Suplee," and yeah, so it was like a really cool feeling because I felt loved. Anyways, so that's the story. My guest today, you have seen him on My Name is Earl. You've seen him on Chance. You've also seen him in Boy Meets World. You've seen him in great movies like Blow, John Q, which is one of my favorite movies, Mallrats, The Butterfly Effect, American X. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And he's a great actor, and I think it's going to be great just talking to him and being his best friend for 45 minutes and him being my best friend for 45 minutes. I think it's going to be great. If you like the show, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. We could always use more support and support. We are on Patreon at Reza Rift 61. Problem is when you go through different producers and different, they all have different techniques, I guess, and they never land on the same technique, which is fine. I'm pretty used to that with my career, but it's just a hassle because I don't like promoting interviews that I did, 10 years ago. I don't even like promoting interviews I did 2 years ago. So like, it puts awkwardness on me. But we are getting all up to date on the YouTube and all that stuff. So keep supporting the show and all that stuff. And guys, I am also on Cameo. Summer's coming down. If you guys want those birthday shout outs and all that jazz, that'd be cool. You can find everything at www.keithreza.com. And guys, don't forget, if you like this episode, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, and enjoy Razor Riffs with Ethan Suplee.
From Hollywood, California, welcome to Razor Riffs with your host, Keith Reza.
Hey,
dude.
How
How are you? Good.
Good.
Nice to meet you.
Good. Over Zoom. Good to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking time out of the day to do this. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, man.
This is awesome. Wow. So thank you. First of all, do you find it easier to being like interviewed by somebody who's also in the celebrity pool, or do you like it? Is it easier with people who just aren't in the pool, like you know what I mean, like random folk?
Uh, Gosh, I don't know. I've never actually thought about it before.
Oh, okay. All right.
I guess if the people who are interviewing me are in the celebrity pool, I might have more familiarity with them.
Oh, okay. Cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you have no familiarity with me, but
No, but in fairness, that's most of the times I'm talking to people. I don't know. I don't know them at all.
yeah. Well, no, because like I have Asperger's syndrome, so like I find it easier to talk to people in the pool who are like celebrities and stuff because I do stand up comedy. So I'm on the F list of celebrityness, I guess. But
Right.
I'm still in the pool, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you're in the pool.
Oh, this is awesome, man. And you look great. Like I follow your Instagram and stuff, and like, oh my God, like you lost so much weight. I'm like in the process of losing weight. I've lost 30 pounds.
Nice.
And, yeah, I still need to lose like 100, but like you're a real inspiration to me. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks, man. Thanks for saying that. That gets me fired up to keep going.
Yeah. And so, like, what was the first thing you did after the liquid diet? Like, did you knock out sugar completely? Because I'm at that phase where I'm not eating sugar.
Yes, I did. The problem I had with dieting for so long, because I would diet and then I would gain the weight back, was I thought of my weight as kind of like an acute thing that I could handle. You know, like if I have a splinter, if I get the splinter out, I'm not going to have any more pain in that finger and it'll be just gone. And when I started thinking about it as a chronic condition for myself, like something that I was going to have to deal with forever, it got a lot easier. So I stopped kind of like trying to rush towards some finish line of like a number on a scale and just started thinking about it more in terms of like building a structure for my life that would be conducive to a condition in myself that was more optimal, you know, rather
Yeah.
than I've done lots of diets and I've done stuff like I'm just going to quit eating all types of foods with carbohydrates, or, you know, I'm going to quit eating any processed foods and stuff like that. And that was all in search of like a short-term goal. And when I would let those foods come back in, but more it was my behavior with those foods, I would gain the weight back.
Yeah.
So so I don't eat sugar very often, but it's not totally off the list. I don't want anything to be totally off the list. You know, like I've had pizza a handful of times in the last few years. It's not a, you know, I'm also sober. And so
Yeah.
I do like to think in terms of abstinence from things, but I found that very difficult to do with food because you are still forced to eat. You can't give up on food. And so I really had to start working on my behavior, my overall behavior with food. Um, and that made my life a lot easier.
Yeah. Pizza's the one food where like I haven't eaten pizza in about 6 months because I know that if I do eat it, it's that one food where even though I could tell myself I'm full, I will still eat it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Total. I know. I totally know what you
So
mean. Yeah. And by the way, I stayed away from pizza for many years before I was like, am I really going to not eat pizza for the rest of my life? Am I willing to do that? And I was unwilling to do that. And you know, I had to go into eating pizza with a lot of caution and a lot of awareness of what you're talking about. Like, you know, I could decide I'm just going to have a slice of pizza, cut to like, you know, I've eaten 3 pizzas and I'm at the drive through at McDonald's getting a Big Mac and a McFlurry. You know what I mean? Like on a
yeah.
bender. Um, and there are safeguards for me that I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? Like one of them is like, I don't eat in secret. I'm not going to do anything that I wouldn't feel comfortable doing in front of my wife and kids. And that's really big. If I start to zone out and go into like binge mode on a pizza in front of my wife and kids, one of them's going to say something like, "Hey dad, are you okay?" Like I'm in a trance of just stuffing my face. Um and that's real helpful. You know, I wouldn't sit and eat a whole pizza in public. I wouldn't go to a pizza shop, order a pizza, and sit there and let people watch me eat it. So that might be a safer place for me to have a slice of pizza because I know at least that society is going to help me regulate myself in some way.
Yeah. I was reading I forgot the source, so don't like quote me on this, but I was reading that if you're trying to like quit something that you're addicted to, just like a good step forward is probably try something just the same but a worse kind. Like say if you have a pizza problem, instead of eating all this, fancy pizza, you go to Little Caesars or something. Like really shitty pizza.
I don't know, man. You know, I'm putting that in context of drugs with me, and it's like, you know, I got the guy who will bring the good stuff to my house and deliver it on a tray, or I got MacArthur Park at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, yeah, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I don't think that doesn't sound to me like a great um, scheme
Yeah.
for quitting stuff. I could have eaten a ton of Little Caesars back in the day. Like if
Yeah.
you said the only pizza you get from here on is Little Caesars, maybe I cry a couple crocodile tears, but then I'm going to town on Little Caesars, you know?
And then you say, haha, I love Little Caesars.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I will tell you this. Today, if I'm going to eat a piece of pizza, it's definitely not going to be Little Caesars. And if you told me that's your only option for pizza, I'm going like, okay, well, I guess I don't eat pizza anymore.
Yeah. Well, my mom wanted me to tell you, like, so here, I said this in the opening remarks, but I think you should know this. So, my family loves me, right? I think. And I told them,
I hope so.
yeah, and I told them, you're doing my podcast. And they like really loved me because my mom loves you from Mr. Woodcock and my dad loves you from Remember the Titans. So like when I found out you were doing it for one whole day, they were like, "Oh my god, my son's interviewing Ethan Suplee and all that stuff," and they're bragging about me and stuff. I felt so loved. So
That's awesome.
thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank your family for we're getting them at all sides.
Yeah. So yeah, I really loved Mr. Woodcock too. So like that was a great comedy movie.
Yeah, that was a damn good movie. I just worked again with Sean William Scott. I think he said we've done 4 movies together, which surprised me because at first I could only remember Mr. Woodcock. But
Evolution,
Evolution, yes, I remember that. And
Road Trip, I think.
there you go. See, you
But
know you know better than I do.
I'm not sure you had scenes in Road Trip with him though.
I don't think it had to be that we had scenes together. It was just
Oh,
that we
okay.
had done movies together. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find like for example, because I remember like Road Trip when I was a kid, like it was one of the best movies in the world, right? And then you go to now, where I watch movies now, I find Mr. Woodcock like the humor smarter, you know what I mean, and more crisp. But when I was a kid, I didn't see that. Like when you're filming it and when you go more in this business, do you notice that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of a very specific anecdote with this in mind. But I know what you're saying, and I've had that experience. I don't know that I've had that experience with, the problem with things that I'm in is I don't watch them. But I'm sure if I like put on My Name is Earl, which I thought was very, very funny at the time, I could watch that today and think it's slightly dated. That's
Yeah.
possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
My Name is Earl was so great. I love it because I wanted to ask you about that. Like, do you remember like were the scripts like just because each script was so unique? Like was it like just one of those wacky things where you're like, oh, this is gonna be awesome, like on each script?
Yeah, it becomes a bit of a blur because we did just about 100 episodes.
Yeah,
But I can remember vividly sitting at my dining room table with a stack of pilot scripts. Now we don't get scripts in the mail; we get emailed scripts. But back then, they'd actually send me a paper script to my house, and I had like 30 scripts, and I was reading through them, and they were mostly garbage, to be honest with you. I didn't laugh out loud once, and then I got to My Name Is Earl, and I didn't stop reading it, and I laughed hysterically the whole time, and I
yeah.
knew that it was something special for sure.
Yeah, that's like the best, because I also write scripts and stuff. So like that's what I try and do is try and make like funny, you know, like that. But I understand the garbage because like when I was an intern at a script thing, they'd throw the scripts and I'd have to read it to pass it on to the next guy.
Yeah,
If I didn't like it, it's not getting passed to the next guy.
and where you were probably passing very little.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, because I do stand up, so like I wasn't interested in reading dramas or you know what I mean. So like I just loved comedies,
Yeah,
But I love it's so weird because I love drama movies. I just don't like reading or writing them.
yeah, sure. No, I understand. I think I probably don't like reading them either.
Uh,
They're, they can tend to be boring unless they're like a thriller or something, and it's like you're waiting to find out what happens. But just a straight drama, like a fucking love story or something. Sorry, can we swear?
of course, yeah,
Okay, good. Yeah, like just some, and it's like the guy meets the girl, and then the girl, and then there's some miscommunication, and they don't meet up for drinks, and the girl thinks it's her, and the guy thinks it's him, and then they go 20 years. Like, that's boring.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, reading it's boring, but I actually like the movies because, like, you did a movie that I thought was I forgot the name of it, but it had a Christy Ricci in it, and It was like I remember there was a big ice cream cone, and they were throwing orange balls at you, and you were a baseball, and you're like, I remember that scene, and I remember it was a love story.
Jesus. Oh,
Am I
I
on
think
the
I know
right
what you're
track
talking about.
here?
Desert Blue.
Desert Blue, yes.
Desert Blue. That
I
man, that's
love,
an old movie. That's a
yeah,
90s movie.
yeah, I loved that movie.
Yeah, we were little kids in that movie.
Yeah. So was it easier for you acting so young? Because now you're getting the business, you know what's going on and stuff.
Um, I think in the 90s there was a naivete that I was just kind of trying to do what I enjoyed doing. I didn't really have any responsibility. So yeah, life was easier, but I've also found that I feel better and I do better when life is harder. And even if that's like self-imposed difficulties, like I got to get up today and go to the gym. I got to, make myself food rather than going through a drive-through. I can I can choose whichever point of view I want. I can choose that that's hard, but I get more out of it. And so back then, I kind of was just acting on my base urges, eat whatever I want, do whatever drugs I want. And yeah, life was pretty easy.
Ugh. But like I think like that's another inspiration about you too, is because you just said that like you enjoy challenges. You know what I mean? So like losing the weight, that was a challenge. And then I also read that you went to France to do a bike uh tournament thing, which that seems like a big challenge because I don't know
Yeah.
how to ride a bike.
You really don't know how to ride
No,
a bike?
I mean I do if it has like training wheels, but like I truly, I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out, but it's not something I've ever really done. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, riding a bike can be a big challenge, especially when I was riding bikes a lot. I lived in Los Angeles, so lot of hills to climb in Los Angeles on a bike. So it definitely presents a challenge in that way. I lost a lot of weight riding bikes.
Did the chain on the bike ever like break on you? Like, and then you have to like be a handyman and fix it?
No, I had a couple flat tires that I had to fix. Um, the chain never broke. I did have one bike accident, but that had nothing to do with a broken chain. But yeah, I fixed some flat tires. When we would go out for a ride, you know, I tended to go out for like 100-mile rides multiple
Oh my
times a
god!
week. And so I would carry a spare inner tubes and little containers of CO2 to fill my tires if I got a flat out in the middle of nowhere. And that happened a few times.
And this is
Yeah.
probably before Uber, so like if you didn't have
Yeah.
that stuff, right?
Yeah. No, that was totally before Uber. Yeah. You were
Uh,
out there.
Out in the mountains, have you ever like came face to face with like a wild animal while you were doing that stuff?
One of my daughters and I were hiking in Glendale once, and we saw a mountain lion. It wasn't that far away. It looked at first to us like a big dog,
Yeah,
but then it didn't look right because it was a cat,
yeah.
and it kind of walked across the path and stopped and looked at us and then kept going. That was kind of scary.
Yeah. I see. I'm scared of like seeing stuff like that too. Like the other day I saw a coyote, and it was like vicious, and I was in my car, so I ran it over and
Jesus,
and a roadrunner came up to me and said thanks.
that's good.
I got Ethan to smile. Awesome. Uh, I wanted to ask you about John Q because I think John Q is one of the best movies ever, and I think it's because it's such a unique story where a guy, robs a hospital to get his son the surgery, and that it's so unique and stuff. So I was wondering when you read that script and you got that job, did you know that like this is a pretty unique stuff? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I was super excited to do that movie. That a buddy of mine named Nick Cassavetes wrote and directed that, and he had written Below, which I was in. and I had done a movie with Denzel already called Remember the Titans. And so I was super excited to do that movie. Yeah. And it seemed like a great project. And, one of those things where you're like, he's taking a bunch of people hostage. So ostensibly he should be the bad guy, but you're rooting for him because
Yeah,
he's doing it for a noble cause.
yeah, definitely. Is it easier for you to work with people you've worked with before because you have that familiarity with them? You know, because you've worked with,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah. Very much easier. uh, Going to set for the first time is like being a kid in a new school on the first day of school, especially if, sometimes movies, it's like a movie you'll shoot for 6 months and you're not needed until the third month and you show up and it's like everybody already knows each other and everything's all established. Or, if you go in to do a TV show that's been on for a while and it's like you're going to somebody's house and everybody on the crew is a member of this family and you're kind of new and it's weird. But if you know people already and you have that commonality with them, it's much easier.
yeah. One of my best friends, he did a couple episodes of My Name Is Earl, and but he did it in like different years. So like I think he did an episode the first year, and then an episode like 2 years later or something. And I remember he was telling me he's like I can't believe the show's so great, but it's still on. I mean, you would think that Jason Lee's lost $100,000 already.
Yeah. Yeah, he
So
should have gone through it, right?
yeah, so I toured with Nora McDonald for 9 years, so like I was his assistant too. So like I remember dropping him off on that, and he was saying that story. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, he was amazing. He
Yeah,
was amazing, especially doing the Burt Reynolds impersonation. It was fucking awesome.
yeah. I think he was like dressed up as Burt Reynolds on that or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was. We had Burt Reynolds on, and then Norm played his son. Um, and so it was wild. Yeah,
Oh my, yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, but stand-up comedy. That's the thing about stand-up comedy is like, you could connect with people like that, and then when they do acting and stuff, like to me, Norm never really liked acting. He just loved stand-up.
yeah.
So like, I don't know. Have you ever tried stand-up? Have you ever had that feeling?
I did a movie. I think in 2010 with a guy named T.J. Miller. Do you know him? He's a stand-up comedian.
TJ Miller's probably my best friend. He's my comedy brother.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I didn't know him. I wasn't familiar with him at all before this movie, and we met and we started talking and he told me he did stand up and I was like, okay, I don't know really. I mean, I've seen stand up comics before and that's cool that you do comedy. And then like the first night he was like, I'm going to go do stand up. You want to come? And I said, sure. And then I laughed so hard and he was so good. I was like thoroughly impressed. And so just about every night of that movie, I would like urge him, let's find a place, like go crash somewhere. And like at some point we would drive like a couple hours to like Akron, Ohio, because he knew of a club, because we were mostly around Pittsburgh. So we got to the point where he was like, I can't just crash here every night. I have to go somewhere else. And we would drive and I watched him do comedy every night. And one night he had a show at some college, maybe Kent State. Is that in Ohio? I think it's
uh,
all
yeah.
around the same area. And so it was at a bar at a college, and we got there, and he said the host didn't show up. You have to host. And I was like, I don't know. What does that mean? And he said, well, you just have to introduce people. And I said, okay, I can introduce people. And he said, then you got to tell jokes. And I said, I don't have jokes. I'm not a comedian. And he was like, yeah, you'll think of something. You're funny. And it was a disaster. I mean, I was terrible. Um, and I was so nervous. My hands were shaking. I had to keep my hands in my pockets. Uh, so I did try stand up once and it was a total disaster. And TJ forced it on me. It wasn't like I woke up one day going, I'm going to go be funny in front of people.
Yeah. I think you should try it again because I think you're so funny and so likable, and maybe TJ threw it on you, so maybe like you didn't know what to expect, but I think now you'll kind of get the vibe of it. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think if somebody writes something funny, I can figure out the delivery to make it funny. But I don't know. You know, I don't know that I have what you guys have as far as like getting off on making people laugh. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's in the cards for me.
Well, if you ever try it again, you could take my coyote joke.
Yes. Okay. Good. That's up for grabs.
Yeah, that's yours.
Okay. Good.
But no, it's funny you mentioned TJ because TJ is actually my I actually tour with him right now, and when Norm died, he took me in, and I've always had like a good energy with him. But also, he's helping me with my weight loss. So he said if I lost 70 pounds, he'll buy my next tattoo.
Oh wow.
So
Nice.
like I don't know, maybe that's like a little encouragement where it's like I just want a new tattoo. Maybe I don't even really want to lose the weight. I don't know. You know what
You
I mean?
just want TJ to buy you the tattoo. Does he get to pick what it is? 'Cause you
No,
could
I don't.
find up you could wind up with something not great if he gets to pick it. It could be a comedy bit. The whole
Yeah,
tattoo could be a comedy bit.
that's true. Yeah. I mean, I have a couple ideas, but I still have halfway to go. So like, do you have any tattoos?
Yeah,
Yeah. So like, they're very, to me, they're very sentimental. So like, whatever I pick, it has to be something where one, I love for the rest of my life, and two, that means something to me. You know what I mean?
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I got all my tattoos before I was 18 and I regret all of them. I wish I'd gotten no tattoos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They have that surgery removal thing now.
Yeah. I've had a few treatments of that. Yeah, that's true. I could go back. That is really unpleasant, and you got to go a lot. I remember the first one I had looked at to get laser removed, and the lady said it would be 13 treatments. That's an
Holy
awful
fuck!
lot. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my god. So it really does hurt. Holy.
yeah, it hurts much more than getting the tattoo. Certainly.
Oh my god. Wow. Ugh. 13 times just with that much pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then
Wow.
you got to wait until it heals, and then you do it again. So it's like a very slow process.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I mean, I don't have cancer, but it's kind of like chemo where you have to keep going over and over again, and you can't go until a certain hair is destroyed, and then you go again.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So wow, that sucks, man. But well, I'm sorry about that. And then I wanted to ask you about the trust, which I have like this weird Nicolas Cage theory, because I feel like there was a time where all the movies he was doing was just like straight to video Redbox movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I rented that on Redbox and I loved it. So I want,
Some of those movies that he did are actually really good. Um, I never saw The Trust,
yeah,
so I don't know if that's one of them. But thank you for saying that. That's very nice of you. But like I liked the directors. The script was good, and then it was Elijah Wood and Nicolas Cage, so that seemed cool.
yeah.
So I was happy to be in that. But I know what you're saying. I think it. He did a movie called Pig. Did you see Pig?
I loved Pig.
Pig was incredible,
Oh
and
my
and
god.
that kind of came out of nowhere, and it was also, I feel like it was kind of marketed. Like I thought it was a horror movie or something from the preview. You know what I
I
mean?
did
And
too. I thought it was like a Saw thing.
yeah, and then it's like just a really really sweet, wonderful movie about a guy who loves his pet pig, and
Yeah.
he's a chef. So weird and awesome. And then he did this movie where everybody's dreaming about him. Did you see that?
I haven't caught that one, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Uh,
also great. I mean, it's fucked up and twisted, but it's certainly not like a shoot 'em up straight to video kind of a movie.
yeah. Is it easier for you to do drama or comedy? Like when you read a script?
I think comedy takes a bit more effort, to be
Yeah,
honest with you. Yeah.
yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
What's the most funnest script you've done?
the funnest script. I did a TV show for a couple of years called Chance, which
Oh, I
was on
love
Hulu.
Chance.
That
Yeah.
was probably the most fun I had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 25 episodes, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got to do a lot of like training with military and ex-military guys and learn how to knife fight and shoot guns. It was a lot of fun.
Well, was that pretty intense when you're training for that stuff? Because,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Hard training. Yeah. Those guys don't fuck around.
yeah. Because I auditioned for this movie when I was a kid called Little Giants, and it was like a football movie. And I think the reason why I didn't get it is because one, I didn't play football, but two, I remember during the audition they were like doing like a football practice thing where you were doing sit-ups and stuff. I was like, I don't play football.
Right. This is not for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had we had to actually show football abilities in the Remember the Titans audition, I certainly wouldn't have gotten it.
Oh, really? Holy.
No
So
way.
So like how were you training for that? Were you like did they actually train you like a football team or did they?
No, yeah, they did 2 weeks of like I forget what it's called of a training camp. So like before even rehearsing for the movie, you're out there doing exercise. Basically, it was just exercise and putting on football uniforms and stuff. I went and did it a couple times, a couple days, and I remember just in the stretching, they'd do like a half an hour of stretching before they'd even start exercising. And I would be done. I would be shot, just like pouring sweat, exhausted just from the stretching.
Oh,
I was truly a mess. I'd probably do much better now, even though I'm an old man, than I did back in 19, that was the 90s still, 1999, I think we shot that in.
yeah. I remember you had the best line in that whole movie and I don't think you knew it. You know what I mean? Like you went up and you're like, "Oh, my back." And then you're like, "What?" I was like, "I just got done giving your mom a piggyback right? And she weighed more than I do." And it
Yeah.
was the best joke ever. And I was just like, because for a drama to have that type of humor,
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty daring and pretty funny.
Yeah. That was a good movie for
Yeah.
sure.
And a lot of people don't realize, but a young Ryan Gosling was in that movie.
Yeah. And he was awesome in it.
Yeah, and now he's like the number one star, but then like you ask him, "Hey, did you ever see Remember the Titans?" No one remembers he was in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it? Have you ever like when you were working like do you have that vibe when you work with somebody like you know that they're gonna go into Barbie or something?
I could never guessed he would do Barbie. But we were friends while we made that. We were definitely friendly, and I just thought he was great. He was
Yeah.
so great. Yeah.
What's like the most fearful thing you've ever done while you were on set? Because I heard on Blow you were high the whole time. I don't know if that's true or not, but
I was high as a kite the whole time. Yes, that's true. The most fearful thing I've ever done. I remember on My Name is Earl, we had to get put in harnesses and hung up inside like an empty water tower.
yeah,
That was kind of scary
yeah.
and uncomfortable.
Did you do your own stunt like on that?
It wasn't really a stunt. I mean, I guess it was a stunt. No,
Yeah,
I had somebody for when I had to fall down.
yeah,
I didn't do my own falling down, but just getting hung in the water tower. Yeah, they had to see because I think we're in there for most of the episode. So we had a lot of dialogue just dangling from these ropes. Um, and so, you know, what after a certain amount of time up there, I was pretty sure I wasn't like the ropes weren't going to break and I wasn't going to tumble to my death, but it scared me in the beginning.
yeah. Don't you think like stunt people who do the stunts like maybe that's in a way kind of just like acting because they could like for example if a stunt guy dies or whatever they could always find a new stunt guy but it's actually like major training to do these stunts and people don't realize that.
Oh yeah. No, stunt guys are no joke. Stunt guys almost all have martial arts backgrounds and gymnastics backgrounds, and they're really, really highly trained dudes. It's not just like some tough guy from around the block who can, fall down on his face 10 times. Like those guys know how to fall down, but then they're also, you know, willing to damage their bodies for the movie, which is super great because then it looks really cool and it looks like people are actually getting thrown around and stuff.
Yeah.
I have
And
the
that,
utmost respect for stuntmen and
uh,
women.
yeah, I think like it. I think like that's. I mean, if I wasn't a comic and I didn't want to be an actor, maybe I'd want to do stunning. But I don't know.
I, I wouldn't trade places with those guys, man. They get really banged up.
Yeah, like they're getting all these car crashes, and they're like, "All right, before you get this movie, how many car crashes have you had?" And they're like, 10. They're like, "You got the job." I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But like,
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you about Unstoppable because that was a great movie too, and like this is your third time you worked with Denzel. So like every single time you work with Denzel, does he change his vibe on a character? Like how does that working with a guy like that make you a better actor?
Yeah, the characters were all very different. On Remember the Titans, there was some separation between the football players and the coaches, like almost like a kids section and an adult section for like where our cast chairs were set up. So in between shots, we're sitting around waiting for them to be ready, and the adults were kind of over in an adult area. So I didn't really get to know him there, but then on John Q um you know we he didn't know anyone, I didn't know anyone. I kind of knew Nick. I mean, I did know Nick, the director. um but so he and I were like really the only cast. No, I knew Kevin Connolly too. That's not true. I knew some of those guys, but Denzel didn't, and so we were friendly simply because we'd worked together before. And then by the time we got to Unstoppable, which is like fully 10 years later,
Yeah,
um uh again, we knew each other, so it was very casual and fun. We didn't have to get reacquainted. And I know all his guys, the guys who do his hair and wardrobe and his security guys and stuff. And so, you feel like you're a little bit in when you know those guys and you know Denzel, and it's like just more comfortable than the first time you meet him.
yeah. It's always good when when you have the bodyguard's number on your speed dial. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, that's helpful. That's helpful.
Who is the one person you've worked with? It could be in movies or TV that have like that made you a better actor. Where like you're doing a scene, and then they just like took you aside and said, "Ethan, we gotta try it this way," and then you did it that way. And you're like, "Oh my god, that guy was or girl gave me great advice, and that was a genius." You know what I mean?
I found I've gotten my favorite direction from Nick Cassavetes. And I actually wonder, not that I've ever gotten, not that I would say I go around thinking I got bad direction from any directors, but Nick started off as an actor. His father was a director, so he's he lived his entire life around movies,
Yeah,
and he really, really knows how to communicate with actors. And so I had some wonderful conversations with Nick, and I've worked with him a bunch, that I felt like allowed me to do things that I didn't even understand were there necessarily. Like we did a movie called Yellow, which got tied up in like legal trouble and never came out, but I think will come out pretty soon. And just on that movie, um, he just gave me direction, which was kind of surprising to me, and led me down a path that I wasn't expecting, and was a lot of fun to go down.
yeah. You mentioned Yellow. So like I'm assuming it's probably going to come out now just because like with all these streaming services, like it'll find a home. But do you think like now in the future, like when you make movies, because like even if you made stuff that never got released and then the release, and then you're like, yeah, I kind of hope it doesn't get released. Have you ever had that type of
Oh
feeling?
yeah, that I did with one movie um that I did a long time ago, early 90s, and didn't have a fun experience doing it and wasn't proud of it and didn't like it. And then a lot of years later, it was long before streaming stuff had happened, but maybe it was like right when DVDs were happening and it was going to get released on DVD. And this is like 10 full years after we had shot it. Um, and they called and asked me to do press for it, and I just said no. So I have experienced that. Yellow, on the other hand, um, I hope comes out because it's so wild and it's just like a total art house movie from the madness that is Nick Cassavetes, the madness and glory that is Nick Cassavetes, and it's like a really wild ride of a movie.
And it's a coincidence because for the folks at home, Ethan's wearing a yellow shirt.
I am indeed.
But no, I know that feeling because I've only done one movie and it was called Terrible People, and it was the like this is why I'm not an actor. Like I thought it was so bad and I couldn't watch myself. I only had two scenes and I died and I was just like, thank God. You know what I mean? It's like,
Thank God I didn't have to be in this for any more time.
yeah. It was a long shoot though, because for two scenes I was there for like 3 weeks and I just thought I just thought it was just, and I had like three lines, so like I wasn't why I do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Have you ever had something like that where like you just maybe you either did it for the money or just did it because you were bored, but then after you did, you were just like, I had no clue why I did this.
Yeah, I have had that and I just don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't do stuff unless I really think highly of the project or people involved and I'm like really excited to do it.
Uh, awesome. Well, I have three more questions. I want to respect your time. Are we good on time?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So question number one, what is your biggest fear and what have you that you've that what is your biggest fear that you've done that you've overcome and how did you overcome that?
Um I guess my biggest fear has been that I am not in control of myself, you know? That I have compulsions and behaviors that are beyond my own regulation, and I have found that through a lot of hard work I can be in control of them. That is probably the most honest answer I can give you to that.
Uh, I think fears are very scary, but I also feel that if you've come to face the fears and just realize, okay, the worst thing that could happen is you're gonna die, and we don't know what happens after that. So is it really fearful? You know what I mean?
Sure, and we all die.
Yeah,
So what's the point in being afraid of something that is inevitable?
exactly. So, and then the second question I had is if you could go back into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, it could be from yesterday or when you were a kid or whatever, what would you tell yourself what you know now?
The problem with that is I'm really happy with right now. I have a wife, I have 4 kids, I have a grandkid. I live in I live in 2 different cities that are both pretty cool. I'm really happy with that, and materially, I'm not sitting around going, I wish I had X, Y, and Z.
Uh,
Although a plane would be nice, but I've given up hopes of ever owning a plane, so I don't even care about that.
uh,
Um, but like the only reason I could see doing what you're talking about is to get here faster. And like, who knows if I mess it up somehow? Who knows if I whisper that in my ear at 18 and it's somehow, the other thing is like I got to be able to take that advice too, right? Because
right. Yeah.
lots of people told me lots of smart stuff when I was a kid that I didn't pay any attention to at all. So we're assuming that if I go back in time and I'm able to convince the younger version of me of some mystical thing. Maybe I don't arrive here. So I like it here now. So I don't even do it. I maybe just go back and look at myself as a fucked up kid and go like, God, I'm so happy with where you finally get wind up, you know?
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you said that and you didn't say, Ethan, if this kid named Keith Reza asks you to do his podcast, say no.
Yeah.
Oh man. But then I also, and then the last question for you is, what is words of advice that you could give future actors, guys who look up to you, and because you've done a lot of characters, that they're like, oh, I don't need to be the star of a show, but I could be like you and still be, well respected.
Sure. Show up on time and know your lines.
Do you have any
That's it.
advice? Do you have any
But
advice on memorizing lines?
sit in a quiet place with no phones, computers, or televisions and read them to a wall until you know them.
Awesome. Well, Ethan, where can the folks at home follow and support you at?
I'm on the only real place that I ever go is Instagram, and it's just my name, Ethan Suplee. I think I have Twitter and Facebook and all that, but I never ever go on them.
I feel social media got less fun the longer, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
totally agree. Yeah.
like there's a time where Facebook was cool, and then like everyone went to Twitter, like Twitter's cool. Then Instagram's cool, and then you're like Threads. Like I don't know.
Yeah. No, and my kids have even said I should go on TikTok. I can't do it. One of them started an account for me and I think probably posted a video, but I can't do it. I'm not it's not fun. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you want to like plug your podcast or stuff so the
Oh, yeah.
rifters could listen to you?
Yeah, I have a podcast called American Glutton. I would love it if they listened. That'd be great.
That would be awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ethan, for saying yes and talking to me. It was an honor to meet you. And if you're ever in LA or whatever, we'll go do stand up again, and you'll have a better time.
I will really enjoy watching you do stand up.
All right, Ethan. Have a great day,
All right,
buddy.
Keith. See you, man. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Bye.
guys. All right. That was the episode. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, and we'll see you guys next week.